20 Best Movies About Divorce. Divorce is one of the most difficult things many people will ever face. Although divorce stories were not unheard of in Hollywood, they became a growing issue as the practice became more common and accepted in American society. Indeed, the best divorce films help illuminate the human drama at the heart of the phenomenon and the broader cultural forces that shape how the process plays out. With the increasing prevalence of same-sex marriage in American life, the divorce film paradigm has also begun to shift, leading to the creation of numerous films depicting the breakdown of same-sex marriages. It's a crowded genre, but these are the 20 best movies about divorce. 1 of 20. Sweet Home Alabama. Reese Witherspoon is at her best in Sweet Home Alabama, where she plays Melanie Smother, a young woman who returns home to find herself divorced, only to fall in love with her estranged husband. There's strong chemistry between Witherspoon and Josh Lucas, and the film also features a great performance from Candice Bergen. This movie is a reminder that sometimes divorce is not always the solution and some marriages are worth fighting for. It also reflects the power of the house and how some ties are so binding that they can never be thrown away. 2 of 20. Mascarone. Although Hollywood has produced many good films about the complexities of divorce and its consequences, a number of international features have also tackled the subject. A notable recent example is the Italian Mascarone, which focuses on a young man named Antonio who tries to put his life back together after his wife files for divorce. There's a remarkable subtlety to this lovely film that helps lift it above the clichés it sometimes indulges in. Plus, Antonio is such a lovable hero that you can't help but root for him as he searches for love once again. 3 out of 20. Our Boy. As homosexuality has become a prominent part of American social and cultural life, so has gay divorce. Hollywood has been a bit slow, but 2023 saw the release of our emotionally resonant film, starring Billy Porter and Luke Evans as gay couple Gabriel and Nikki, whose divorce leads to a bitter custody battle over their son. Like the best divorce stories, this film is full of emotionally resonant moments that allow viewers to see both sides of the divorce equation. Neither party is completely right or completely wrong, which makes the death of their marriage all the more devastating and understandable. 4 out of 20. War of the Roses. Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, and Danny DeVito made a winning combination in the hit Romancing the Stone, and they're just as charming and funny in The War of the Roses. Douglas and Turner are perfectly cast as Oliver and Barbara Rose, a married couple whose marriage is on the decline leading to a very bitter yet hilarious divorce. It's one of those movies that holds back when it comes to the raunchy nature of its comedy, so much so that you don't like the characters, even when you can't laugh at them. It also showcases DeVito's talents as a director. 5 out of 20. The Terrible Truth. Cary Grant and Irene Dunne star in 1937's The Awful Truth as a couple who decide to divorce but do their best to keep each other single. The film is a perfect example of the screwball comedy that was so popular in the 1930s and was a special showcase for Grant as a leading man. The couple eventually come to the conclusion that they still love each other. So, this movie is a reminder that divorce isn't always the panacea people think it is, and sometimes it's worth working through your differences. 6 out of 20. Women. George Cukor was a director known for his ability to make so-called feminine pictures, and one of his greatest efforts was Women. It's an absolutely fantastic movie, in part because, as the title suggests, it's exclusively about women, their wants and needs, even if it's mostly about the men in their lives. The heart of the film Mary is Norma Shearer, who eventually divorces her husband Stephen, but eventually decides to unite with him. It's a funny movie with a talented cast including Joan Crawford, Rosalind Russell, and Joan Fontaine. 7 out of 20. Gloria Bell. Julianne Moore is rightly regarded as one of the most talented actresses of her generation, and she is able to create unique, textured, and distinctive characters. In Gloria Bell, she plays Gloria Bell, a divorcee who starts a relationship with a divorced man while dealing with the fact that her children are grown and don't need her anymore. Although not much happens story-wise in this particular movie, it still deserves credit for portraying a divorce. Said woman who is her own person and who can forge a life, with or without a man. 8 out of 20. Shoot the moon. There is no question that divorce is an often ugly process, with each party sometimes resorting to despicable behavior to win the other hand. Such an acrimonious state of affairs is the heart of the film Shoot the Moon, which stars Albert Finney and Diane Keaton as George and Faith Dunlap, a married couple whose marriage slowly breaks down and ends in divorce. The film certainly doesn't shy away from some dark material, and sometimes it can be a bit difficult to watch these two people being truly terrible to one another. Yet this unflinching willingness to look divorce squarely in the eye gives Shoot the Moon its undeniable power. 9 of 20. Stepmom. As the title implies, Stepmom is very much a product of the late 1990s, and at the heart of the film is Susan Sarandon's Jackie, a woman who is contending with the fact that her ex-husband now has a new girlfriend and additionally has terminal cancer. Sarandon is remarkably effective as Jackie, and Julia Roberts is likewise perfectly cast as Isabel, the new girlfriend. The film effectively demonstrates the many complications that arise after a divorce. Although some of the plot points are a bit predictable and sometimes more than a little manipulative, the film as a whole still manages to be quite touching and thought-provoking. 10 of 20. Kramer vs. Kramer. Coming out at the end of the 1970s, Kramer vs. Kramer is very much a product of his time, focusing on how divorce can profoundly impact the children caught in the middle. Meryl Streep gives a typically terrific performance as Joanne Kramer, who leaves her husband and son and files for divorce. Of particular note is how the film depicts the ugliness of custody battles, particularly once the two Kramers and their lawyers resort to harsh measures in the courtroom. However, it never loses sight of the humans at the story's core, and this solidifies its tremendous and enduring emotional power. 11 of 20. Crazy, Stupid, Love. While the fortunes of the romantic comedy film were undoubtedly on the wane in the 2010s, they received a nice boost thanks to Crazy, Stupid, Love, which stars Steve Carell as Cal Weaver, a rather sad sack guy whose impending divorce knocks him for a loop. However, he soon gets some helpful dating advice from playboy Jacob Palmer, played by the ever-charming Ryan Gosling. Various misunderstandings and hijinks ensue, but Cal ultimately learns that it is possible to move on from divorce, even if the film suggests that there might be a future with his ex after all. 12 of 20. Scenes from a Marriage. In 1974, Ingmar Bergman released a film version of his haunting miniseries Scenes from a Marriage, chronicling the dissolution of the marriage between Marianne and Johann. It's one of those films that excels at providing emotional intimacy and insight, allowing the viewer to understand the complex and often ugly emotions involved in divorce in remarkable detail. Even though some of the full nuance is lost in the adaptation from a miniseries to a theatrical film, there is still much to admire. It would have a lasting legacy, inspiring other filmmakers and resulting in a remake in 2021. 13 of 20. Waiting to Exhale. Released in 1995, Waiting to Exhale is a remarkable exploration of the concerns and emotions of four black women and, just as importantly, of the friendship and bonds they forge with one another. All four women have relationship difficulties of one sort or another, and two of them go through messy divorces. The storyline revolving around Angela Bassett's Bernadine Harris is a particular pleasure to watch as she takes revenge on her husband, who divorces her for another woman even after she gave up her career and life to build a family with him. Although the women all ultimately find romantic happiness, it's still clear that their greatest and strongest bonds will always be with each other. 14 of 20. Something's Gotta Give. Nancy Meyers is one of those writer-directors with a remarkably keen eye for what makes a romantic comedy, which helps to explain why Something's Gotta Give is so enduringly funny and pleasurable. It certainly helps that it stars Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton, who play a playboy and a divorced playwright who unexpectedly finds love. It's the type of romantic comedy that never deigns to talk down to its audience. Instead, thanks to Meyers' smart writing and remarkable performances from Nicholson and Keaton, both of whom are undoubtedly at the top of their game. 15 of 20. The Squid and the Whale. Noah Baumbach is one of those directors with a keen eye for the human condition, and many of his films are achingly adept at showing ordinary people navigating the emotional difficulties of modern life. In The Squid and the Whale, for example, he shines a light on the life of two boys whose parents go through a divorce. What is particularly remarkable about this film is just how funny it is. Moreover, it features some strong performances from Jesse Eisenberg and Owen Kline, who play boys Walt and Frank, and Jeff Daniels and Laura Linney, who play their parents, Bernard and Joan. 16 of 20. Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire is pure 1990s. Focusing on Robin Williams' Daniel Hillard, it follows him as he disguises himself as the English nanny Mrs. Doubtfire to see his 3 children after his divorce. Given that Robin Williams is the star, the film is undeniably funny, and it features some of the actor's most sophisticated humor. At the same time, it also reveals how ugly divorce can be, particularly once Sally Field's Miranda Hillard learns the truth. It has just the right blend of sentiment and hilarity, and, perhaps best of all, it even has a happy ending. 17 of 20. The Parent Trap. Released in 1961, the original version of The Parent Trap starred the precocious Hayley Mills as identical twins Sharon McKendrick and Susan Evers, identical twins who were separated after their parents divorced. When they accidentally meet at camp, they discover the truth and devise a plan to get their parents back together. Hijinks ensue, including the twins playing a number of tricks on their father's new love interest. It's a very fun movie, in large part thanks to the performance of Hayley Mills, who is her usual charming self, as well as the performances from Brian Keith, Maureen O'Hara, and Joanna Barnes. 18 of 20. The First Wives Club. As its title suggests, The First Wives Club focuses on a group of women who set out to get revenge on their husbands who have, of course, left them for younger women. Its central trio is the very definition of fabulous, composed as it is of Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, and Diane Keaton. There's undeniable chemistry between the 3 leads, who give some of the most memorable and hilarious work of their storied careers. What makes the film particularly delightful is its willingness to lean into the silliness rather than trying to be something it isn't. It is, when all is said and done, pure fun. 19 of 20. The Philadelphia Story. Katharine Hepburn, James Stewart, and Cary Grant make for an engaging trio, and there's more than enough chemistry to go around. Hepburn is perfectly cast as Tracy Samantha Lord, a socialite who gets into a bit of a love triangle with her ex-husband, Grant's C.K. Dexter Haven, and Stewart's Mike Connor. Various hijinks ensue, but fortunately, all of the right people end up together, including Tracy and Dexter, who realize they have loved each other all along. Director George Cukor knows how to get the best performances from his star, and the film manages to be fun and sweet both simultaneously. 20 out of 20. Marriage Story. Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story is one of those films that captures the human anguish that is so often at the heart of divorce. Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver are perfectly cast as Nicole and Charlie Barber, and their divorce is the heart and soul of the film. Marriage Story doesn't shy away from the pain and anguish of a marriage's collapse but does a remarkably good job of showing how neither person is solely to blame. There is also humor here, and what emerges allows the viewer to see divorce in all its complexity and sometimes frustrating nuance.